Don't cry for me. I'm already dead.
How we doing today, planet Earth? My name is Ian Fox, and today I wanted to sit down and have a serious discussion with you all about the current state of Fallout as a franchise. The funny thing about this is that my concept for this video originally was going to just be about Fallout, but then the more I thought about it, I felt like my feelings on the topic also represented my feelings towards Xbox as a platform, as Fallout is basically an Xbox franchise now. So I decided to adapt my script for this video into that video alongside a bunch of other points non-specific to Fallout, and then after I had already filmed it and was in the process of editing, Xbox had a showcase that I didn't know was happening that made a lot of the other points I made pretty much irrelevant. So here we are, right back to square one, which is really great for me. Speaking of the recent Xbox showcase, aside from Starfield, the main thing that I was keeping my eye out for was anything Fallout related, and unfortunately, I was completely unsurprised to find that when it comes to this franchise, it's still laying face down in the dirt. That's not to say that there wasn't anything announced relating to it, because there most definitely was, as what was revealed to us is yet another Expedition expansion for Fallout 76.
My God, you're greasy.
This time around, players of 76 will get to look forward to taking a trip to Atlantic City, which I suppose is great for the 45 people that are still playing that game worldwide. The thing is, this trailer didn't show anything other than the standard goofy Vault Boy animation, which was admittedly entertaining to watch as they usually are, but the problem that I have with it is that the only thing that Fallout has going for it at all right now is for Fallout 76. Now, I don't know about the rest of y'all's out there, but whenever I hear about anything coming out for that title, I just can't help but roll my eyes. Whenever it gets brought up, all I can think about is how much I'd rather just forget that it exists altogether. Due to the terrible launch and poorly designed game that was 76, the series that we've all come to love is about as barren and desolate as the wastelands that it is often so great at depicting, which makes me feel sad as well as makes me laugh because it's so hilariously ironic. Despite this colossal failure, for some reason, both Bethesda and Xbox feel that 76 alone is worthy and capable of maintaining the Fallout franchise, and I hate to break it to both of them, but that couldn't be further from the truth. It really does not matter how many glitches Bethesda has fixed, or how much content has been added since it came out, because a very large majority of the people that still love this series don't want to touch 76 with a 10-foot pole, myself included. No matter what, that game will always be a fat, stinky brown skid mark on not only Bethesda's reputation, but on Fallout's as well. As fans of the series, we are now in the same situation that Elder Scrolls fans have been in since 2011, aside from the fact that when Bethesda originally launched Skyrim, they left their fans feeling satisfied and wanting more. Unfortunately for us, the big difference here is that the thing we love was taken out back and shot before our very eyes, all in the name of making one final greedy cash grab before Bethesda dipped out to work on something new. Taking all of this into consideration, both Xbox and Bethesda really should be taking steps to repair what was destroyed before and save Fallout. Fortunately for both of them, they have a fan with a really big brain that is looking to propose his ideas as to how they can do that, as well as get them a whole lot of what we all know that they love, which is that good old cash money. I understand that there are a good amount of you out there that likely have heard a few of the sentiments that I am bringing forward today, and if so, that's totally okay. I believe that these are great ideas that are well worth repeating, as we want the Fallout overlords to hear our screams of discontent. So without further ado, let's open the vault door to my stash of big old brain plays so we can get right into this. One thing that I feel would not only be a great way to get people discussing Fallout in a positive light again, but would also be a surefire way to get a really fat stack of cash into Xbox's pocket is to remaster both Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas. Fallout 3 was Bethesda's first foray into the series after acquiring it from Interplay Entertainment in 2004, and upon release in 2008, it very quickly became one of their most popular titles ever. Following the success of 3, Bethesda enlisted the help of Obsidian Entertainment to create an immediate follow-up and excellent partner piece, Fallout New Vegas, which released in 2010. Both of these titles are regarded as two of the best games in the franchise to date, and they both released all the way back on the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. It wasn't until Fallout 4 released in 2015 on the next generation PlayStation 4 and Xbox One that the franchise grew exponentially, and there are millions of players out there who have never had the opportunity to play both Fallout 3 and New Vegas to this very day. Whenever Todd Howard was asked about possible remasters of these two games in the past, he would always give the very corporate excuse that he would prefer to not remaster and re-release them because, quote, the age is part of the identity. Well, despite the fact that he has said this on numerous occasions, Bethesda has remastered and re-released The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim 6 different times since it originally released in 2011.
That doesn't even make any sense!
You can't say that you don't want to do something because the age a product was released in gives it more character, while at the same time going against that very same mindset 6 different times with the same product that you also developed. The excuse never made sense in the past when in regards to Fallout 3 because Bethesda was the studio that both developed and published the game, but at least on the flip side a few years back, it was understandable that we'd likely never see a remaster of Fallout New Vegas because that title was developed by an entirely different studio. Back then, if Obsidian were to remaster New Vegas, they'd have to get a good amount of the cut. Now in 2023 though, things are a bit different. Not only has Bethesda been under the Xbox umbrella since March of 2021, but a few years before, in November of 2018, Xbox purchased the developers of New Vegas, Obsidian Entertainment, effectively placing both studios under the control of Xbox. Considering that both studios are now on the same team, it would be a completely moronic move for Xbox to not take advantage of that in the future and remaster both of these amazing titles. Now, there might be some of you out there saying that perhaps these remasters wouldn't be necessary because both Fallout 3 and New Vegas are backwards compatible on both the Xbox One and current Series XS consoles, and this is where I would have to heavily disagree. I've always been one to emphasize how little graphics matter in comparison to gameplay, but in the case of both of these titles, they could both greatly benefit from a facelift in both of those aspects. Despite the fact that these games today look okay as is, both are well over a decade old at this point and would absolutely look stunning with a fresh coat of paint. Both the Capitol and Mojave Wasteland are some of the most engaging, iconic, and memorable locations I've ever visited in a video game to date, and I'm sure many others out there aside from myself would absolutely love to see them make a return with the same love and care that Skyrim has seen over the last 6 releases. On a gameplay level, both of these titles, in my opinion, are still very fun and enjoyable to play. However, it's clear that when it comes to combat and gunplay, they do feel a little bit dated, and back in the day, they served as excellent building blocks for what eventually became Fallout 4's much more refined combat system. Just imagine if, in a remaster for these two games, not only did we get a graphical facelift, but improvements to the gameplay overall. If the developers were capable of tweaking and improving upon the combat system to make it feel as refined as Fallout 4's does when compared to 3 and New Vegas, both of these games would have absolutely no issue flying off the shelves. And I'd be willing to bet that they'd more than likely be even more popular than they ever were in the past. It also probably couldn't hurt to fix most of the still existing glitches in both titles to help them feel like newer, smoother experiences. Let's face it, we already know that with Bethesda under the Xbox umbrella that anything they develop in the future is more than likely going to be exclusive to Xbox. So with this in mind, releasing 2 remastered, critically acclaimed games exclusively on the platform will no doubt draw great interest and I believe 100% would be a system seller. I know for a fact that if this were to happen and I didn't own a Series X or S, I would be flying out to the store and picking one up without any hesitation. Going back to the point of Bethesda and Obsidian both being under the Xbox umbrella, we of course have to discuss the next new Fallout game. At this point in time, Bethesda's main focus is on getting Starfield out the door, and as of right now, it is set to release on September 6th, 2023. What I was originally going to say in regards to Starfield in my first iteration of this video was that many Bethesda fans, myself included, were all left fairly unimpressed and weren't all that excited for the game due to the rough-looking gameplay reveal and overall lack of information. But after Xbox's recent game showcase, that couldn't be further from the truth. Starfield seems like it's shaping up to be a great game, one that no doubt has taken a great effort from the teams over at Bethesda to create an interesting universe full of all kinds of things to do, people to meet, and hopefully, following the original delay, it's got a great polish for launch day. I am excited for it, but as of right now, we still have a few months before we can get it into our hands and Bethesda can move on to their next project, which has been confirmed to be The Elder Scrolls 6. Not much is known about that title at the moment, but what is known is that The Elder Scrolls 6 is more than likely going to take another 5 to 7 years to develop, meaning that fans of the Fallout franchise are gonna have to wait until the near mid-2030s for the next release.
That is without a doubt the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
If Xbox forces fans to wait that long, it will be one of the most nonsensical decisions made by the company in recent years, as they spent over 7.5 billion American doubloons to acquire the studio and its franchises. I know that Fallout is Todd Howard's baby, and he wants Bethesda to be the development team behind the next game, but unfortunately for him, Xbox needs to make the executive decision to get another one in development ASAP. Of course, we couldn't just pass off a franchise as popular and lore-heavy as Fallout to just anyone, so they need to get Obsidian Entertainment to pick up the slack. With the release and subsequent popularity that followed New Vegas, the teams over at Obsidian have proven that they have what it takes to make a solid Fallout game, and there is no better choice other than Bethesda to tackle that momentous task. One of the things that made New Vegas so popular in the first place was that a small number of developers on the team just so happened to have worked on Fallout 1 and 2 all the way back in the 90s, so for them it was a no-brainer to create yet another game that takes place in the western United States. This is yet another sentiment that many fans out there have been very outspoken about, as Obsidian can be trusted to make another great game set somewhere in the West, just like the originals and New Vegas. Bethesda were the ones to bring the series to the East Coast, and since Obsidian has done so well with the West, it's a no-brainer to split the franchise up into the two development teams, allowing for games to be released at a faster rate. The thing is though, as of right now, Obsidian is currently working on The Outer Worlds 2, a sequel to their own IP that was announced sometime in 2021, as well as Avowed, which is set to release sometime in 2024. The Outer Worlds 1 began development in 2016 and released in October of 2019, so with that in mind, if everything goes well for them during development, it's entirely possible that it will take them a similar amount of time, likely landing The Outer Worlds 2 in a 2025 release window. Considering the CEO of Obsidian has been very vocal about wanting to work on another Fallout game before he retires, following the release of the sequel to The Outer Worlds as well as Avowed would be a great opportunity for the studio to get cracking on another Fallout game. If everything worked out and this ended up coming to fruition, we could see the next title be set for a potential release date not far off from The Elder Scrolls. Considering how long it takes Bethesda to develop their games, they can only juggle so many franchises at once, and honestly, with introducing a third, that being Starfield, in my opinion, they just have far too much on their plate. Now, I don't know about the rest of you people out there, but I would really like to not be over 30 years old before I get to take another dive into a game franchise that I love. I'm sure many of the Elder Scrolls fans out there are just rolling their eyes at me right now because they've also had to wait an insane amount of time for the next entry, but the truth is, with Xbox's resources, that shouldn't have to happen ever again. Of course, I wouldn't be surprised if the next entry was yet another exclusive to Xbox, and considering how popular New Vegas was, a follow-up would no doubt be a system seller. In terms of Fallout, I have one more idea that I think would greatly benefit the franchise and Xbox, and that is the topic of remakes. Let's face it, as of right now, we are living in the age of the remake, and Resident Evil developer Capcom showed the entire gaming industry with the Resident Evil 2 remake how beneficial it can be to reimagine older experiences and bring older stories back into the limelight. I believe that older titles, such as the original Fallout 1 and Fallout 2, absolutely should both get remakes that modernize those incredibly popular, old as dirt games. As a fan, I have watched many videos about the lore and stories that these two games contained within them, and I've even downloaded them to my computer to try to play them myself, but goddamn are they difficult to get into. There's a reason why we don't see games be developed in this top-down, turn-based formula very often anymore, and if it isn't obvious, it's because that style of gameplay is incredibly outdated and not very engaging, at least in my opinion. I have great respect for these two titles, as they were the precursors to what eventually became the games that I have since fallen in love with, but unless you're someone who played them all the way back when they were originally released, you're going to have a very hard time getting into them. Once again, I know that I'm not alone in saying that I would love to see these stories be remade into something that is much more modern. I would love to immerse myself into the story of the original Vault Dweller from Vault 13 and his quest to find a water chip to save his vault, as well as take on the original Super Mutant army and come to understand how they came to be, and take down the Master all in a shiny new modern experience. The same thing goes for the story of the Chosen One, as he sets out on an adventure of a lifetime to find a Gek so he can save the village of Arroyo, and gets himself involved in a war with the infamous Enclave as they make their first ever appearances in the Wasteland, and eventually nukes their oil rig, presumably taking them out for good until we see them again in Fallout 3. Again, these titles would make a great opportunity to draw future players to the platform, as well as revitalize the franchise in its entirety. There are so many things that Xbox can do with just this single series. It's insane, and the fact that they're just sitting on it with no plans to expand upon it or begin development on anything regarding it aside from Fallout 76 is absolute blasphemy. When it comes down to it, I think that both Xbox and Bethesda can get things going pretty easily. It's important to remember that since Bethesda is owned by Xbox, they also have Microsoft's resources, which basically means they have infinite resources. So to not take advantage of the opportunity that they have in front of them and not get something released in the next few years is just a huge missed opportunity, and I really hope that they don't make that mistake. What about you guys though? What do you think? Do you have any other ideas as to how we can pick this franchise back up? If you do, please feel free to leave a comment down below, because I do promise that I read every single one of them. If you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and click that like button and subscribe if you want to stick around. I appreciate you all for watching, and I'll catch you all later.